Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. Listen to the ThunderCast anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast. And you can watch the ThunderCast on the ThunderCast YouTube channel. Russ, it's got to be a bounce back week for the herd. It's got to be a bounce back week for the herd. The season is drawing to a close really, really quickly. Marshall is still a couple wins shy of that 6-win minimum threshold in hopes of gaining a bowl bid. That's not a guarantee these days. So really, you want to see the herd go on a 3-game win streak to close out the season, show that they've turned a little bit of a corner and can finish things really, really strong. That'll get them to that 7-win plateau and guarantee a bowl bid. But first things first. Got to go down to Atlanta, Georgia, play the Georgia State Panthers, who are sort of reeling in this one. Coming into this one, I should say. So we're going to have all the stats, info, insight, and analysis in this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview. But you know how it goes. We can't do any of it until we get a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty in this one. Let's face it, 75-week as it pertains to a home game has come and gone. It's one that I think some of us feel like we could have won, and yet another game that has slipped away from the herd, and slide that one that goes into the loss column, but also goes into the very winnable game column. Just can't have any more of those this season. You got to have every single one. You got to get to that 7-win plateau at a minimum. You've got to get 2 out of 3, or otherwise you're just trying to play spoiler at the end of the season. And I don't think there's too many teams left on the schedule that you're going to spoil. So you got to just win games. Georgia State, like I mentioned, is coming in not too hot in this one. A 1-win team, 1-8 on the year, 0-5 in the Sun Belt Conference. Their lowly only win of the season comes way back at the beginning of the season against Murray State, 37-21, so they don't even have an FBS win this season. Russ, the game, of course, going down 11-15-25, 2 p.m. kickoff at Center Park Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. The game, of course, going to be on ESPN Plus for all of you not traveling to the Peach State. ESPN matchup predictor loves the herd in this one, 77.3% chance to win. Herd is minus 6.5 with an over-under of 61.5. Fourth all-time meeting between Georgia State and the herd. The herd's 2-1. Georgia State's only win, though, came in Atlanta 2 years ago, a game we talked about a couple of weeks ago in a preview. That one really went wrong, really bad for the herd. There was nothing going on, and we just cannot afford to have another one of those repeat performances. Of course, a lot of new players on the roster, so can't really translate that game from 2 years ago to this one now, but it is what it is. How are you seeing this one as we go into what I'm calling a must-win game on Saturday?
It is a must-win game, and if you want to play for a bowl, it's never easy to go down to App State, who is coming up next, so it's looking like, you got to win 2 out of 3. You'd like to win the first of those and not have to win your final 2, of course. This game might shock a little bit of people, when you look at the record and just face value and say, we're favored to win. They're 1-8. They've not won an FBS game. They have the toughest schedule in the Sun Belt Conference, 58th overall in the country. They played Memphis, they played Vanderbilt, and they played, who else was that? Ole Miss. So their first 4 games besides Murray, they had 2 teams that are currently in the top 21, and Memphis, who was in the top 25 this year, and talking about a college playoff appearance. So Still, though, they have problems on defense. They have had problems at times scoring, even when they have changed quarterbacks to a guy that we're going to talk about quite a bit here, I'm sure. But they've had trouble scoring, but they have been really bad at some key things on defense, like lowest in the country type bad. And we're going to get into that. So it's one of these games where it sounds like if you can go down there and just take care of business, you should come out with a win. But you can never that's why they play the games. On paper doesn't do a thing.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to roll over and just be like, here, guys, have the win. Our season's all but over. Like, go ahead. I mean, this is an opportunity for them to play spoiler in a sense that they could keep Marshall from ultimately reaching a bowl game if they're able to go in and get hurt. And let's face it, they also would like to get a Sun Belt Conference win. They would like to get an FBS win. And as far as their fans are concerned, they beat us 2 years ago in their house. So they've got a lot of reasons to be playing hard too.
It's their final home game, so usually that means senior day. So that could be another thing that they can get up for, even though they're 1-8. They got stuff to play for.
Yeah, I noticed when I was doing prep in this, a lot of players that we're going to feature here in a little bit, a lot of those guys were senior players. So it's I don't think it's any accident that upperclassmen are leading their team in a lot of offensive and defensive type categories. But still, it also feels like if you go in and play your game, take care of the football, you can win this game. Fairly easily. Now, the style points might not be there. You might not win pretty, but it feels like if you do what you do well, you will win based on how some of these rankings and matchups will play out. Now, I got a couple of bullet points I'm going to talk about here real quick, and the last one is more of a question to you, kind of how the season will go type deal. I'm calling this the unofficial 75 week because, of course, we're recording Thursday night. The game's Saturday. This is Thursday night, the 13th. We all know what tomorrow, Friday, will be. It'll be the actual anniversary of the crash. And then, of course, the day after that is the game. So, yes, we're on the road. And, yes, we've griped and moaned about it. And it's something that should never, ever, ever, ever happen again as long as Herd administration draw a breath. Right? They should do everything in their power to keep this a home game. But for this week, we're on the road. And this year, we're on the road. So this is the official unofficial 75 week. And I think some of this will travel with the team. Some of because it just travels. It always does. So maybe we get one of those deals where we see another wild 75-week play travel and help the guys out in Kelly Green this year. We mentioned this is also a must-win game. It's a 2 of 3 type thing, but you really, really, really want to go 3 of 3 down the stretch. Nothing against App State. You can't look over them, but they're not playing like the App State that we expect to see most years. The big bonus is, of course, this game's going to be in Boone, and bonus for them anyway. So you can't just gloss over them and say, okay, well, that's a win. You can't do that. And then you're going to close out the season with Georgia Southern at the house at the Joan. They also are not doing very well this year. And this is a team that had some Sun Belt East Division championship hype coming into the season. And I got to tell you, man, when I was doing the prep and looking at some of the rankings against Georgia State or trying to find them for Georgia State, Georgia Southern was right there in a lot of these key rankings that hopefully they stick for the next couple of weeks because – if you're like to go 2-0 in around the Georgia swing, that'd be pretty good. Let's talk about an injury report. Oh no, I got one more question for you.
Okay.
I got a question for you. What happens? What do you think is the result? Let's say Marshall goes in, just lays a complete egg, or Georgia State plays out of their minds, whatever the case is, and Marshall loses this game. And now you're staring down the barrel of being 4-6, 2 games left to go. You just gave the only winless Sun Belt team in the division a win, a 1-win team, a second win. How do you think that's going to go?
With the team and with the fan base, it's 2 different things. Yeah. I think the fan base, they just write it off. No one wants to travel to Boone at that point. I'm still going. I don't care. If we get blown out 80-0 in this game, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still going to Boone and supporting Marshall. You'll see a lot of fans turn on the coaching staff, turn on the players, just write the team off. And then that final game of the year, there'll be more people out in the tree stands than there will be in the parking lots, and less than that will even be in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate, but I think the team is going to take it one game by one game, and they're not going to say the season's over. And I think a lot of that is Coach Tony Gibson. This is his first time coaching, but he has the chance to come in and instill things into these players. And he has a running theme in every press conference that every time he brings it up, he says, if you're not playing hard in a game, I'm going to look at whoever and say, get him out of there. Mm-hmm. If you're not playing hard at practice, I'm going to look at whomever and say, get him out of there. Mm-hmm. You will not play. And, you won't play. And he keeps bringing that up. And I think that you can see how these players – remember when he got his first win and how real that was in the locker room when that made social media afterwards? These players will run through a brick wall for him. And I think that he can get them up no matter what happens in this game. He can get them up for the final two, game by game.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point, right? Because the players are kind of – captive, they know what they're doing every Saturday for the remainder of the season. Whereas fans can just go, I was going to go to the game, but we're not going to make that bowl game. Probably they're going to start probably in, right? Well, we're probably not going to make that bowl game now. We're probably not this. And so I'm just going to go hunt, or I'm just going to go do anything else,
Mm-hmm.
But I will credit the fans for a number of things. They have continued to come to games despite losing in different ways. Collapse, an offensive shootout where you collapsed and you lost, that was on the road. They came back anyway and they showed up for a game. They went on Thursday down to Myrtle Beach and they even traveled pretty well and you lost that game, and they put 25,000+ in the stands for 75 week. So they're coming back to games. But I don't know that you can ask them. I mean, you should do it because it's senior day, number one. You should do it because it's a Herd home game, number two. And you should do it because you go to see the Herd, period, number three. But I think there's some of them that would just go, I'm not going back. You lost to a 1-win team that hadn't won a Sun Belt game. And earlier this season, you gave a team their first FBS win. And, we lost this way and we lost that way. And, there's a lot of good things that have happened. Like, remember less than a month ago, we were talking about how awesome it was to see Rio-Wilson just dazzle week in and week out. And we've had all these great running backs do things that were really that would really get you up, for a game. And Boogie's been electric, and, P3's been electric throughout the season. I mean, there's been a lot of really good things. I just think that there's a lot of inconsistency, and losing this game would send ripples far deeper into the fan base since the season is winding down. And that's, of course, it's unfortunate. That's why you have to go win this game. You keep the fans on the hook for one more week, right? Because, all right, we won this one. Well, we could lose at App and still make a bowl. I'm going to go to the home game. I'm going to be the difference. So, yeah, you got to win this one. I just think there's no two ways about it. Before we get into the injury report in this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview, of course, we got to talk a little bit about those guys and what they're all about and what they do. If you still haven't heard about the Dead Meat Society, well, welcome to your first football preview for the Herd this season. And I guess we could be talking to some of those Georgia State fans that might be watching this.
Very true.
What we have to say about their squad. But if you are into tailgating, grilling, cooking, and all that sort of thing, you need to go to the deadmeatsociety.com, not the Dead Meat Society, deadmeatsociety.com. That should be your first stop on your journey if you're getting into this lifestyle, or if you're an old pro just looking to share some wisdom, maybe pick up a new recipe. Maybe you're in the market for a new grill or a new smoker and you're wanting to talk shop with some guys that have been there and done that. Or you're looking to lend some wisdom to guys that are looking to get into that sort of thing. The Dead Meat Society is the place for you. Now, again, as with every show, I'm going to pipe down because this ain't my wheelhouse. This is Russ's wheelhouse. This is the guys that you'll hear us talk about on a lot of shows. Like, our buddies, Chris Lewis and Kyle Walker and all those guys that do such a great job. This is more in their wheelhouse. So Russ, take it away.
Yeah, anyone that is not familiar, Katie's been calling it a lifestyle brand, and that's what it is. Chief Grilling Officer Jake Coons is behind Dead Meat Society, and you can find a lot of the content not just over on the website where you can get that Dead Meat Spam newsletter that's free every Thursday in your email, but over on Facebook, over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, you'll find videos. You'll find a page, even a page in a group. The page has all kinds of reviews and news about different types of gear and things like that. But the Facebook group that they have has people like me, people like KD, people like you that's watching and listening, sharing recipes, sharing gear reviews and things like that. And I think that's where it's real special. But if you are looking for any type of gear for, cooking indoors, cooking outdoors, tailgating, things like that, Dead Meat Society is where it's at. Jake was just here. He came up with the JMU squad, and was here for the home game. And he left me some cool things. And on our live tailgate show, we got to show some of the prototypes that are just getting ready to come off. And that's the skull that for the spatula, the turner, and a pair of tongs at skull on the edge of it. And it's just cool looking gear, but it's well crafted quality gear too. So I'll play this commercial, and then we'll get back to some football.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since the discovery of fire, mankind has gathered around it to prepare food. And today we enjoy fellowship with family, friends, and even strangers as we cook and grill. At home on the weekends, at tailgates for sporting events, and just by ourselves to find inner peace. We have holidays centered around the custom of grilling. And now there is a society for those of us who like to grill, who stay up all night to get that smoke ring just right, who share their gifts with others. The Dead Meat Society is here. Flame, family, community, feed everyone.
Once again, head on over to the Dead Meat Society, deadmeatsociety.com. Sign up for the Dead Meat Spam free newsletter that is chock full of all kinds of cool stuff. You can't go wrong starting or continuing your journey with Dead Meat Society. Russ, let's get into this Marshall football preview a little bit further. Let's dig into the injury report. And, man, I've got to say, I feel bad for Georgia State. They've got to have one of the most extensive injury reports that we have seen for a team this season. They have a total of 16 players on the injury report. 13 of those are already listed as out. And as you pointed out, once you are listed as out on the initial availability report, you cannot be upgraded to anything else but out for the Saturday availability report. So these 13 players are out and will not be playing. Let's start on the offensive side, and then we'll flip to the defensive side. Let's start with tight end Cameron Overton Howard. He's their fourth leading receiver this season with 15 catches for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then you've got wide receiver Leo Blackburn is their fifth leading receiver this year. Running back LaDainian Martin, tight end Wesley Campbell, quarterback PJ Hatter, offensive lineman Kendrick Boyd, offensive lineman Daryl Bailey, and then we're going to flip to defense, inside linebacker Demaine Wilson, and then a quartet of defensive linemen. Dorian Royal, defensive lineman Ian Matthews, defensive lineman Jalen Jordan, defensive lineman Sir Mells, and then defensive back Isaiah Dunson. You got 2 guys that are listed as doubtful, who of course could be upgraded to available. Inside linebacker Kobe Owens, who is their 9th leading tackler on the season, 26 total tackles and 10 solo. And then running back Dennis Murray Jr. You got 1 guy left, and he's listed as questionable, and it is a big one. If this man is not a go, this is a completely different Georgia State Panthers team, and that's quarterback 1, Cameron Brown. He leads the team in all major categories this year. 114 out of 173 for 1,239 yards, 13 touchdowns versus 1 interception. He's got another 56 carries for 275 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. If he is not a go, this is a completely different Georgia State Panthers offense, and it's already an offense that's not terribly lethal from a scoring standpoint. Russ, you had an opportunity to talk to the guys from Georgia State. What kind of insight did they give you about this situation as it's developing towards Saturday?
They said that they were under the impression that they thought, I believe it's been a little tight-lipped, that it was an injury to the throwing hand. So that is one of those like questionable, you'd rather see doubtful there. But I think there might be a little gamesmanship here, because now who do you key in on? Who do you practice for? Yeah. Right. He is a weapon on the ground, but he also stretches the ball through the air. And they were making statements off and on camera that if he is out, you might as well throw the offense away. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've seen it all year long. I mean, you're 1-8, but when Cam Brown is in, they said the offense moves. When Cam Brown is not, they struggle a lot more.
Mm-hmm. So here's gamesmanship is not a bad word to use, right? Because you're going to list a guy as questionable because he still could go.
That's right.
Then let's say he is a go, but he's not 100%, and you're talking about a throw in hand. At that point, are you dressing and are available but still not starting, and you're going to try to go with TJ Finley or another quarterback? Is 80% Cameron Brown better than quarterback number 2? Like, it's a very tight rope that you're going to start to walk, because they've not seen tremendous success out of the backups. But you got to think, man, Panther fans are pulling hard for him to be okay by Saturday to give them more than a puncher's chance in this one. But
what if he's okay to come in and run, but he's not okay to come in and throw, or throw long distance? Yeah. He can't do his real game, and he's got to do more short throws and things. He could still be dangerous doing that, obviously.
Sure. Yeah. But I think, then you start to think about, like, okay, if this guy's in the game, are these running situations? Can we kind of almost throw the pass defense on the back burner a little bit, where, we're not as concerned about getting beaten over the top, because is the grip strength going to be there? How accurate is he going to be long? What's the limit at that point? Are we talking about 10 yards is it? 15 yards is it? Nobody really knows at that point. So this is a very, very intriguing question that herd coaches are asking themselves this week, because I don't think we've had a guy on an injury report for an opponent yet that has been like this impactful. I meant this much to their team. And this is what we're staring down the barrel of. So it's not a question mark that I want to run into, because this is a must-win game. I'd like to have as many known facts as possible and as few question marks as possible going into this one.
It does not get any more important than the starting quarterback,
for sure.
For any team, and this is one of those that, when I first heard about it and I saw the stats and looked, I've been watching Georgia State, Georgia Southern app all year long, trying to see about these last 3 games. And I'm right there with them. Cam Brown is a threat. I mean, he leads them in rushing, and he hasn't even been playing all year long, mm-hmm. And that's from your quarterback. But anyway.
Yeah, so let's flip it over to Marshall's injury report. You got 7 guys listed. All 7 are listed as out, so none of these guys will be appearing on Saturday. And some of the usual suspects that we've seen for a past number of games here, we've got a few additions this week. Some might bring some concern to certain positions, and I'm sure you'll know what we're talking about here. Outside linebacker Rashawn Carr continues to be on the injury report. Offensive lineman Peyton Ellis is on for his 3rd or 4th game straight. Brian Robinson, wide receiver, is on it for the 2nd or 3rd game straight. Then you got some new names to the injury report. Offensive lineman Christian Richter, who's been a mainstay on the Herd offensive line. is new to the injury report. Defensive lineman Jakarius Clayton is out. Running back Tony Mathis is out and new to the injury report and big-time contributor. Running back Justin Williams-Thomas is new to the injury report, but a name you did not hear who is now available, running back Michael Allen returns to the Herd running back room. And, man, what a great time for Mike Allen to come back in this must-win game. A healthy Mike Allen, a streaking Antoine Roberts, and an always dangerous Carlos Del Rio Wilson.
Joshawn Barbie.
And Joshawn Barbie doing short yardage for some reason now. A dangerous, more lethal, potentially Herd backfield. Not bad. Well, since we don't know if quarterback one for Georgia State is going to play or not, we're going to assume that he will. But we still need to talk about some quarterbacks you might see in relief, and then we'll feature, the rest of the guys. So let's talk about some of these players you got to look out for Georgia State in this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview. Let's talk about quarterback TJ Finley. If you've been around college football for the last decade, then that name rings a bell. TJ Finley is a 6'7", 238-pound senior who's on his sixth or seventh.
I think seventh.
Man, this guy's got to be the NCAA record holder for transfers. And I know it's kind of like, haha, but man, that's crazy. He's been literally everywhere. And I don't know all of them, but it's like he was at LSU and Auburn and Texas State and Tulane maybe, and he was at Western Kentucky. And now he's at Georgia State, and maybe I missed one in there. But wow. But he's QB2. He's got some pretty decent stats, but not great. I don't know how many games this is across, but he's 102 out of 62 or 162 on the season, 993 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air, also 5 interceptions. He's been sacked 9 times. He's got 18 carries for negative 42 yards and a long of 15 on the year. Then we'll talk about potentially seeing quarterback Christian Veyer, 6'5", 209. He's a senior as well. Only 4 of 11 on the season for 52 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Let me stop right there. Let's say Brown's not a go. You like to think it's Finley because he's got the most production. He's been around the longest. Maybe not in Atlanta, but he's been around the longest.
Finley has played in 6 games,
okay.
And Brown has played in all games. Brown came in when Veyer got hurt. Veyer started the season against Ole Miss. He either got hurt or got benched. He has not played since. So he was 4 for 11 in the first game of the year against Ole Miss. Then Brown came in, but Finley has, in the games that Finley has been in, has outthrown Brown in yardage, when you look at the leaderboard and everything. But Brown has been in every single game. Finley has been in 6. Veyer hasn't been back on the field. I'm thinking it's got to be Finley.
It's got to be.
Unless there is an injury that is undisclosed, which they are supposed to put that on the injury report, it's going to be Finley. So I'm thinking Brown, if he's available, is your starter. If Brown is not 75%, you may see Finley with Brown coming in throughout the game, depending on how Finley's doing. That's where I'm looking.
Yeah, and you also might be looking at a situation where you're seeing 2 quarterbacks playing throughout the game, but you are one good lick away from maybe Veyer being forced into action or maybe Brown being forced into action and being a one-dimensional offense. And Hurd's been doing pretty good against the run if that's the dimension you have to go up against them with. Now, there are a few more weapons here for this Georgia State Panthers offense. I don't really want to make it sound like it's a one-man show. There's a couple of really good playmakers here, particularly through the air. So let's talk about the running backs first. You got running back Rashad Amos, a 6', 220-pound senior. Again, 61 carries on the year, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, good for 4.4 yards per carry. And then running back Jordan Simmons, 5'11", 200-pound, another senior, 44 carries for 224 yards and a touchdown, good for 5.1 yards per carry. The main receiving weapon by far is wide receiver Ted Hurst. Big body, big number. 6'3", 185, also a senior. 57 catches leads the team. 854 yards leads the team. 6 touchdowns through the air leads the team, and he's good for 15 yards per reception. The last guy we're going to feature is wide receiver Javon Robinson. Littler guy, 5'7", 155. He's a junior. 44 catches for 402 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's just 9.1 yards per reception. Looks like a solid possession receiver. Of course, it doesn't mean he can't break one and go the distance, but at 9.1 yards per reception across 44 catches, that screams possession receiver to me. But look at those. Look at that drop off from 1 to 2, 854 yards to less than half of that. Hurst is a massive part of this offense for the Georgia State Panthers. Notes on this offense: points per game, 21.1 is all they're scoring. That is 113th in the country. Total yards per game, 367.3. That's 81st in the country. Rushing yards per game, 113.5. That is 118th in the country. And pass yards per game, 253.8. Good for 44th. Third down conversion percentage, they're getting a third down picked up 41.5% of the time. That's good for 60th. And time of possession, they possess it just a touch over half the game. 30 minutes, 14 seconds. That is 63rd in the country. Penalties per game, 9.4 penalties per game for 74 yards on average. That is 135th out of 136 FBS teams. Yowza. Russ, what do you think overall about this Panthers offense?
You mentioned Ted Hurst and said he's a massive part, but let's give some percentages here out of a pie. 37.4% of their passing yards goes through Ted Hurst, but their total yards, he's getting over a quarter when you even factor in running. 25.6% of their total offense is Ted Hurst catching the ball. And that, I mean, you think about that. He has to have a good pass thrown to him for him to do this, and he's got 37.4% and 25% overall of their offense. Wow. Their total touchdowns, by the way, nearly a quarter there, too. 23.1% of the time that they have scored a touchdown, it's been Ted Hurst. Yeah. Let's talk about their offensive line real quick.
Yep.
They have only given up, let's see, they're 14 sacks. That's tied for 41st in the country, so they're up in that upper third. And then tackles for loss, they have given up 46. Both of those, by the way, are better than what Marshall has done, and Marshall has done a pretty good job at that this year, but that's tied for 52nd in the country. So the offensive line has not been allowing a lot of people back in the backfield, or if they have, Cam Brown and et cetera has been able to get out of that tackle for loss, get out of that sack situation, make something happen.
Yeah, I tell you, that really magnifies this potential injury situation, and what they do best is passing the football, 44th in the country in passing yardage, and they do a really good job at protecting their quarterback. So that means quarterbacks have time to make a good throw to a streaking wide receiver. That means that is a huge part of their offense. And if you've got a guy with a dinged up throwing hand, a lot of that goes away potentially, or you trust in TJ Finley to, pick up right where Brown normally leaves off. Either way, being able to harass a quarterback is something that Georgia State has done an exceptional job of preventing. Go ahead.
I just want to say for anyone that doesn't see these stats in front of you, Brown and Finley are both kind of close in completion percentage. And when you factor in that Brown has had more games and more attempts and everything, he has thrown for more yards. But where it really gets you is that efficiency. You mentioned it earlier, 13 touchdowns versus 1 interception, but Finley has 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So more likely to turn the ball over, not as big on completion average, completion percentage. It really could turn into a totally, totally different game. By the way, 6 sacks out of these 15 have been on Brown, who has had a lot more attempts and a lot more games. 9 in the shorter amount of time. kind of leans toward Cam Brown has gotten away from the sacks.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the rush yards speak to that. He's obviously a little bit more mobile and elusive than what Finley has been. So you can really start to see how these attributes start to stack up and what they mean to this offense and how utterly huge of a loss this would be for Georgia State if Cam Brown's not a go. Defensively, it starts with linebacker Josiah Robinson, the 5'11", 208-pound junior. He leads the team in total tackles and solo tackles, 64 total, 31 solo. He adds a sack, a forced fumble, and a pass defended. And then we're going to talk about a couple of safeties. Jalen Jones, 6'1", 195, sophomore, first real youngster on this both sides of the ball that is a player we're featuring. 44 total tackles, a second on the team, 26 solo, also second on the team, and adds a pass defended. Other safety, Jordan Huff, 6', 188. He's a senior, 39 total tackles, 21 solo, gets an interception on the resume and 2 passes defended. Defensive tackle, Bishop Thomas is one you're really going to want to pay attention to. He comes out really highly graded in Sunbelt defensive tackles, and some outlets have him as the number 1 overall highest graded defensive lineman in the conference. 6'1", 295-pound junior, 37 total tackles, 20 solo. He's tied for the team lead with sacks, Russ, with 1.5. That's the tied for the team lead. And he adds a pass defended to his resume. Impact play stat line through 9 games. 11 sacks in 9 games. 28 passes defended, 2 interceptions in 9 games, 2 forced fumbles in 9 games, 1 fumble recovery in 9 games, and 0 defensive touchdowns in 9 games. Wow. That's kind of where I got to say, stick with that. Usually if you see a team that doesn't really have a lot of sacks, they have a lot of something else, a lot of interceptions, some fumble recovery, something. They really don't have a lot of anything on the impact plays category. Let's talk about the notes for this Panthers defense. Points allowed. They are allowing 40.7 points per game. That is dead freaking last in the country, 136th. That is not the stat you want to be last in the country in. Total yards allowed, 451.7 yards per game, 132nd in the country. Rush yards per game, 218.2 rush yards per game allowed. That is 134th in the country. And here comes the Herd and their top 20 rushing offense. Pass yards per game allowed, 233.4. That is 92nd. Third down conversion percentage by opponents. They're giving it up 47.1% of the time. That is 127th. Turnover margin, they are -1, tied for 127th. And here's a new one that I'm bringing this week because I know you like this sort of thing. Opponent red zone conversion through 9 games. Their opponents have had 51 attempts in the red zone, 45 scores. That is 88.2% of the time they're allowing a score to the opponents. That is 106th. Let's break that down a little further. 38 of those 45 are touchdowns. 7 of them are field goals. So 74% of that time, it's a touchdown.
Let me tell you, because that's my stat that I love. But I had a little something on there, and I calculate that. So for every time that an opponent has gotten into the red zone against Georgia State this year, counting how many touchdowns they've got, how many field goals they have gotten, versus how many attempts, they are giving up 5.63 points every time someone gets to the 20 or closer against them. And it has happened 51 times in 9 games.
Yeah. That's a hell of a stat to pay attention to. All these other yards and points and percentages and blah, blah, blah. That is a glaring problem. And if I were a Georgia State fan, of all the stats, I believe I would concern myself greatly with this one and the points allowed per game stats. That tells you the season in a nutshell. And as good as they may be and flashy and what they might be able to do on offense, they just cannot keep pace with damn near everybody they're playing. And we've been there. We've seen those seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that's frustrating. That is definitely one to keep an eye on. We heard Tony Gibson in his press conferences this week talking about that we have become stale and a little predictable on offense. So look for the Herd to switch it up a little bit in certain situations potentially. And we've seen the Herd have to settle for field goals, over punching it in for touchdowns in recent weeks, and it's really hurt them. So curious to see, as a Herd fan, what is this offense going to look like this week? Though this is a must-win game, it seems like a decent time to try to experiment with something, especially if you have a decent-sized lead and you have the luxury to, try something. But it's starting to create a little bit of a perfect storm. Obviously, you can't call this a guaranteed win. Nothing is a guaranteed win. But a lot of things are lining up for Marshall to get a win this week. Do you got anything you got to say about this defense before I talk about a couple of kickers?
Yeah, they're 4 men down on the defensive line on their injury report.
Yeah.
And even though you don't look at those and see like any kind of production when you're looking at them as far as stats go, that's depth that's gone. And they already, besides Bishop Thomas, who is great, by the way, you mentioned he's graded out the highest in the Sun Belt amongst any D lineman. We don't see much impact whatsoever from any other defensive lineman after Bishop Thomas.
Yeah.
You've got another guy that's got some tackles and things, but no sacks, nothing. So this is one of those reasons that it's showing up that they're giving up so many rushing yards, because they're getting beat at the line of scrimmage. Now, I will tell you this. We are sitting here talking, let's address the total scoring first. You mentioned it, dead last at 136th, 40.7 a game. But their first and fourth games, were against the now top 20 Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. They gave up 63 and 70. And that has kind of, I'm not saying it took a great defense and made it, look bad, but in conference play, they've given up 34.8 a game. That's 115th. So at least jumps up 21 spots. And oh, by the way, Marshall is giving up in conference play 38.8, 129th out of 136.
Yeah.
So conference play, it has not looked as bad. Remember, they were up 7-0 at halftime against James Madison and only lost 14-7. The red zone thing, yeah, that's bad. 45 out of 51, 88.2%. But Marshall, 29 out of 34, 85.3%. And they're giving up 5.15 points every time someone gets in the red zone. So, yeah, it looks bad. It is bad. But Marshall has some glaring problems on defense, as we all know.
Yeah, we do. But I think the difference is we've shown that we can go score for score with a team.
You can.
And I'm not sure that they've shown that as much. Now, look, after that unbelievable poor effort against James Madison, 14-7, affair, over the last 4 weeks, they've had App State at home, they've had Georgia Southern on the road, they've had South Al at home, and they've had Coastal on the road. And they've allowed 41, 41, 38, and 40. So right at averaging 40 points over the last month. So the season average is what did I say? 40, right?
40.7.
So they've given that up in conference right over the last month. So even though, it was inflated earlier, that James Madison score helped bring that right back down. And then they're right back to the right on average over the last month in conference. And you've mentioned it before. These are not teams that are like doing great. South Alabama's not doing that great. Coastal's pretty good. Georgia Southern's not doing that great. And App is not the App that we expect, but this shows you they can put up points on teams as well. So you can't, again, count them out. The Marshalls just got to go in there and handle the business. That's all there is to it. You can't be the one, again, to where the team figures it out and somehow plays astonishingly against you.
I would say that our offense is better than the 4 offenses that they have just played that you mentioned here. App, Southern Alabama, and Coastal. And they, again, have put up right there at that 40 points. I'm not trying to say that, they are much better than that 40.7, but they have the capability because they really, really played really well against James Madison.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that they have been blown out a lot all year. But how many times have you seen that, you can say, well, we should handle this team. We should handle this team. And I just don't want to have anybody think that, well, this game, there's 99.9% chance that you win. It's not.
No, of course not. I mean, even the FPI thinks it's only, 3/4 of a chance, 77%. But I'm just saying, like, over that same month, this offense over the season has been averaging 21 points a game. Over that same month where they've been giving up 40, they've been averaging 25.5 points a game. Marshall should be able to get 28 points in this game.
They should be able to get a lot more than that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if these guys are over the last month are only scoring 25.5, and that's with their all-world quarterback, what's the story going to be, this week? And I am quickly, reminded of the coming out parties of Louisiana and Coastal Carolina. Quickly reminded, right? But you can't see that movie 3 times. I can't see that 3 times in the same season. So
you did in 2012. That's the last time. I hope you saw that.
A couple of place kickers to round out the players to watch out for in this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview. I don't know who we're going to see because both these guys have stats and both of them have a few. So Liam Rickman, 6 foot, 222-pound junior, 2 of 4 on field goals with a long of 31, 10 of 10 on extra points. And Braden McAllister, 6'1", 180-pound junior, 1 of 6 on field goals with a long of 52, 7 of 8 on extra points. So struggling in the field goal category, just 3 of 10 on the year, doing okay on extra points. But man, here comes Lorcan Quinn.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show when you've got a guy that is 2 for 4, but his long is 31. You got to get down to the 14-yard line just to hit his longest, and the other one was in the 20s, of course. And it 1 for 6, but you hit a 52-yarder.
Bangs from 52. All right. Let's talk about keys to victory in this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview. What is your number 1 key to victory for Marshall University in this one?
Stop the pass, whether it's Brown or Finley under center. Their passing attack is much more dangerous than their rushing attack. We've been getting torched through the air. Stop the pass, you severely limit their offense.
I learned my lesson last week.
Okay.
I said all these things, and they all came true, and we still lost. The one thing I didn't say, stop the chunk plays on defense. That's my number 1 key to victory. No chunk plays for touchdown this week. I can deal with a 20-yard gain. That's going to happen. I can't deal with a 1-play 80-yard drive for touchdown. I can't deal with a 3-yard pass that goes 50 for touchdown. I can't deal with that anymore. No chunk plays is the glaring overall number 1 key to victory in this game. What is your number 2?
It's do not let Ted Hurst loose. He's a threat to take it to the house anytime, can rack up the yards and receptions, as we already talked about here earlier. Last year, though, we held him to 1 singular catch for 15 yards, and that helped us win a much tighter game than we were hoping that it would have been. You stop Hurst, and you severely limit their offense yet again.
I'm going to give you my number 3 key to victory as my number 2, and it's double Ted Hurst. I mean, he's the guy that's going to thrash you if there is a guy to thrash you. Marshall's been doing really well in the run defense department anyway. I think they can still carry that over from last week against James Madison. So if you're going to get burned in the pass game, don't let it be at the hands of the guy that's been doing it to everybody all year long. Double Ted Hurst. Force somebody else to beat you. And I'm not sure that you might line boogie up on Ted Hurst, but if you're going to double him, Why not put Boogie one-on-one with somebody else and let two other guys double Hurst and see how that works out?
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like you said, he's a massive key to their offense. And if you can force that aspect of his game out, then how else are they going to beat you? If Brown is out, if Hurst is blanketed, they're going to have to find other ways really quickly to beat you, and you're going to run right into the teeth of this Marshall rush defense that's been doing really well this year. So what's your number 3?
I've got this word in all caps, feast, where the table has been set. They give up a lot of yards on the ground. They allow a lot of third down conversions. When opponents get to the red zone, they score. We talked about all that. They are dead last to close to dead last in a lot of these categories. Just keep pounding the rock until they show that they can stop it.
So we just flip-flopped our 2 and 3 keys, basically. My number 2 key to victory was you got to run wild. You got the 134th ranked rush defense, and I sold us short. I said a top 20. We're the number 11 rush offense. Now with a healthy Antoine Roberts, a healthy Michael Allen, a healthy Joe Giambarbi, a healthy Carlos Del Rio-Wilson, and don't forget about Floyd Lacey. This is all in the run aspect of the offense. That's not talking about short passes to guys and, make a move and try to get upfield. Tamarez comes to mind. He's been doing that sort of thing in the past month or so. There's no reason not to exploit the hell out of this matchup. 134 versus 11? Are you kidding me?
I
understand.
It's as glaring as we have seen all year.
It really is. And if you go into this game and you are not able to run the football in this one, something's wrong. Now, I understand. Coach says we've gotten a little stale. I got it. I get it. That doesn't mean you stop running the football. Maybe it means you stop trying to do 3 quarterback sneaks on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th downs when you need to pick one up. I get that. But that is as glaring as I believe we've seen in a long time as a disparity between a defense and an offense. You got to run the football. What is your 4th key to victory?
It is get up for the game and stay up for all 4 quarters. People often talk about the layout of that stadium. Famously, it was an Olympic stadium, got converted to Turner Field for the Braves, and now it still looks like a baseball stadium. And some parts of that, the seating is way away from the action. And on top of it, there's not a lot of attendance there. They have said 16,000 on average, and you look at some of the games, and it looks like 5,000, 4,000, even lower. So people talk about a lack of energy, and it's hard to get up. I've heard fans say that. We can't let that be an issue, and definitely not an excuse, right? You create your own energy, and you keep it up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you bring 75 with you this week, right? You get up, you bring your own juice this weekend. And my number 4 key to victory is just do it, man. Like enough, gotta fix this, gotta fix that. Just do it. Just win the damn game. Like it's been a long 2 weeks for these guys. I know it was more like 3 with the midweek sprinkled in there. It's been a long time since they've won a football game. And I know that taste of losing the way they've been losing is souring really quickly. And as much as it is for the fans getting tired of hearing, we got to fix this, we got to fix that, these guys just want to win a game. So win the game. Just go win the game. This is your best opportunity to play a Sunbelt team that you are superior to in a whole lot of categories, in a lot of positions across the board. And we talk all the time about lining up from the guy and beating the guy across from you. This is probably their best opportunity to do that more consistently in this game. So just freaking do it, right? You got anything else to say on keys before we talk MVPs?
Nope.
Out here spitting bars. Who's your offensive MVP in this one?
I feel like if we're going to be running, it's got to be Antoine Roberts. He's got the hot hand, and I feel like they're going to feed him in this game. We might see a running back by committee. I really hope that we've become stale is we're going to get away from some of the things that you talked about, like 23 carries by your quarterback versus 20 for the RB1 of the game that was just tearing up the defense. So give me Antoine Roberts.
So I started to cheapen out and say the run game, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of guys that are going to be contributing. But I lean towards Antoine Roberts too. Back-to-back 120-plus rush yard games. This feels like if anybody is going to be able to have a 200-yard day, if that's a thing, like break 2 big ones, 3 big ones, if that's a thing and you're able to do that, this is the week you're going to do it. I'm not calling for it, but I'm thinking like, all right, if you break an 80-yarder and another 80-yard, something like that, and you're like all of a sudden 5 carries for $170. But look, the thing we haven't talked about is Michael Allen has returned or is expected to return in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what he meant in the past game?
Yeah.
Before he went out, that has been a missing element out of this offense for a couple of weeks. It's been there sporadically, but nothing like when Mike Allen was hitting his stretch and his stride and became a all-purpose weapon through the air and on the ground. So you can't just sleep on that returning to this offense too. Maybe that was the indicator of we've gotten a little stale on offense, and it means like, oh, Michael Allen's back. We can work in more throws to the running backs now. So, but I still feel like Roberts is the guy based on this matchup. God, it's just so glaring. Who's your defensive guy this week?
I've got it being Boogie Trotter, and I wanted to go so much with somebody making some impact sacks, but they just have not given them up. Now, if Finley is the guy the whole game, he's averaging a sack a game and has only played in 6, so a sack a game for the games that they've played, not that he's played. I couldn't do it though. We've been banged up a little bit. We have not gotten, I think we've gotten 1 sack in like the last 2 games, 2 in the last 4 or something like that. At one time we were in the top 15 in sacks. It's gone down quite a bit. So give me Boogie Trotter, who has been making those plays in the open field, making those solo tackles. He's got 5 touchdowns, 2 of them he's taken to the house. 40% of the time that he's picked one off, he scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
So give me Boogie.
Yeah, that was an easy pick to go to, and I started to do it, but I thought you might go that way. And then I started thinking about my keys to victory and working my way through that, and I thought, okay, doubling Ted Hurst, and maybe you put Boogie on someone else and use 2 other defenders on Hurst. And then I started thinking safety. And then I started thinking who's been so damn close all season long to making plays. And it's Cam Smith for me this week. I think Cam Smith might be able to get his hands on one this week and come down with it. But, man, it's hard to argue against Boogie Trotter. Who's your special teams guy this week?
It's Lorcan Quinn. I'm thinking that we're not going to have a lot of punting opportunities the way that this defense that we're going up against looks on paper. So, you're looking at either the return game or you're looking at your field goal kicker. The guy's been hot. He's got 5 games in a row where he's got at least 2 field goals, and he's been hitting from beyond 50. So, yet again, you get into the red zone, you got a really good opportunity against this team. We should be able to see it. They've been letting people in the red zone 6 times a game, almost. So give me Lorcan Quinn on it.
Yeah, and now you're talking about first of all, it's Lorcan Quinn for me too, because now we're looking at records within reach. Another 50-plus yarder, you're going to stand kind of alone. 3 more field goals on the season, you're going to set a record for field goals made in a season, right? And of course, I'm not trying to be trading touchdowns for field goals in this game, but he's closing in on all-time marks. And he's been good, like you said, for 2 a game over the past 4 or 5 games. You got to think he's probably going to get at least 1, and he's probably going to have opportunities for more than that. It will depend on whether the coaching staff wants to go for it on 4th down or not, if they think they can do it. So it's got to be Quinn. He is streaking. He might be the hottest player on this roster right now over the course of the last month or so. How about a score prediction in this one?
Oh, man. I went 41-24 Marshall.
Okay.
And, I kept thinking a couple of things, but I almost went higher and lower. Higher for us, lower for them.
So what was that knee jerk that you thought? What was your higher, lower that you're not sticking to?
like one more touchdown each way, like 48-17 or 48, somewhere around there. And I kept thinking, no, we still have things to work out on offense. No, they can still light it up on the scoreboard, especially with Ted Hurst and Cam Brown if both of them are playing. And I kept thinking, hey, 41 points is still really good. If you win 40 or score 41 points, you should win a lot of games. So, they're 136 out of 136, and they don't give up technically 41 a game. So you should win a lot of games at 41. Mm-hmm. But that was my thought process. And I kind of settled there in the middle. Still not as close as Vegas sees it, but more of a, 3-score blowout.
Yeah, and I don't think this was on purpose. I don't think you looked at those averages and went, well, that's where I'm going to go. Because we just talked about it. Over the last month, they're allowing 40 a game. Over the last month, they're scoring 25.5. That's pretty much right on brand with what they've been doing. And I wanted to get that score, other unofficial score prediction out of you because I did go higher and lower. I think the return of Michael Allen just has me a little perked up. The streakiness of Antoine Roberts has me perked up. The fact that they just cannot stop the run has really got me excited. And, I still factor in the fact that we still haven't seen that special teams play that we've been hoping to see, that, we get great returns, but I haven't seen a special teams touchdown that we've been so close to seeing. P3, it's been, a game. He might be due for another pick six. I don't know. And Boogie hasn't had one in a while, so a defensive score is not off the table. There's so many wild cards in this game. Who's the quarterback going to be, right? And what does that mean for their pass protection? Because one's been glaringly better versus the other, and one is obviously worse at efficiency through the air than the other. And so who's it going to be? Give me 52 to freaking 20. I feel a big blowout coming here because the Herd needs one. They need to make a statement. They need to get their mojo back for this stretch run. It's like a kind of take no prisoners kind of deal for me. It's like we need to show ourselves and show kind of everybody else left on the schedule that we're a team to contend with. You're not going to count on 5 turnovers. You're not going to count on chunk plays by like a good James Madison team to be the difference and beat you. Like Marshall needs to make a statement in this game. They need to make a big statement. Like we're in it for the stretch run. We're looking to go 3-0, 52 to 20.
I love that.
Any final words?
No, just anyone making the trip. I did do the getting to know series. So Big Green is going to the barbecue place that those guys said, Woods Chapel Barbecue. It's a block to 2 blocks from the stadium. Free parking right next to the stadium. So if you're going, have good time and bring us home with victory. Yeah, be safe on the travels. Atlanta is probably my least favorite city to drive through. So heaven help you on a weekend. I know that ain't going to be easy to navigate, but for those going, enjoy the trip. I'll be watching on the couch with my son and hanging out and having a good time. Russ, if you got nothing else, take us out of here on this Dead Meat Society Marshall football preview. Whether you see us at the Vet, whether you see us at the Cam, or whether you see us down at Center Park Stadium in Atlanta, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd. Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you this weekend for a recap. Later.